Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and I'm sure glad you can keep our appointment. Tonight's guest has a long biography, but I am going to share as much as I can before we bring him on. Dr. Khaliq alim-el, aka Dr. Botanica, began studying herbology and nutrition at the age of 10. He became an advocate of natural health and developed a love for wildlife while participating in gardening, fishing, and hanging around at the racetrack. Dr. Botanica had a love for thoroughbreds and farm animals, and after seeing a cancer campaign ad on the dangers of smoking, he saw the need to encourage his mother and father to stop smoking. From that time, he began reading and studying books on herbal medicine, like Jethro Claus's Back to Eden and Cooking with Mother Nature, and of course, How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. After several years, he became an athlete and desired to learn more about nutrition and began to advance his knowledge of consulting with clinical nutritionists in a health food store regarding nutrition for athletes. Actually, in 1978, he began a serious search for a cancer crisis after he learned his father was challenged with stomach cancer. His father transitioned in December of that same year, which ignited a deeper interest in alternative medicine since the medical practice had failed to help his father recover. Well, Dr. Botanica went on to become a owner of a multiple health food stores over the years and continued his studies. Eventually, he met Baba Dick Gregory. I believe that was in 1994. And he also met the man who would become his mentor in Oriental Medicine, Dr. George Love, while attending a National Nutritional Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, while owning and co-owning the health food stores, Dr. Botanica decided to attend the International College of Traditional Chinese Medicine in Mexico and traveled to study periodically with Dr. Love in Boca Raton, Florida, where he owned a holistic training center called Kitchen Physician. Now, I told you he has a really long bio, and I was skipping over it to try to get some of the finer points in. But I am going to bring on, actually, before I bring him on, I'm going to bring on a video that I would like you to listen to.
What conditions do I address? I get that from many people. I used to have a company called All Health Concerns. The reason I called it All Health Concerns because I was able to use many modalities to address all health concerns. Why? Because the body is one physiological machine. Everything's connected. Kidney, spleen, liver, pancreas, brain, heart. There's no separation. You address the body as a whole. You don't address conditions in parts. For example, kidneys are the essence of life. Did you know most people that have kidney disease are challenged with stress and poor diet? I address that. I address heart disease, cancer. As a matter of fact, there is no cure for cancer, but cancer can be prevented. Cancer can be controlled with the right modalities. I've been in practice for nearly 25 years. I have been studying since the age of 10. And I embraced this science at a very early age because it was my purpose. And the purpose is to help you to heal. So whether you have kidney disease, whether you have migraine headaches, whether you have allergies, arthritis, autoimmune disease, short-term memory, and children that are having growth and development problems. Dr. Botanica actually addresses all that simply because I understand the connection between the human body and nature. And my job is to reconnect you with nature and all the phenomenal medicinal properties that nature has to offer, from the mitochondria to the outside of your skin. Your body has the ability to heal itself. Your body has the ability to self-manage and self-regulate blood pressure, blood sugar, even your immune response. We have what they call the coronavirus that's out there now. Different viruses like H1N1. And we fall into panic because of ignorance. And as they say in even law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So that applies to self-healing. And remember the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. And my job is to share that knowledge with you, to disseminate as much information as possible. I have had the pleasure to work with people like Hugh Hefner, Dick Gregory, James Ingram, Eddie Robinson. Matter of fact, I have some of the most rarest end-stage lung and breast cancer case studies, believe it or not, in the entire Midwest. And I'm not an OBGYN, I'm not an oncologist, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a researcher, health practitioner that is connected with the natural laws of nature and divine law. And so by comprising this synergy of phenomenal properties, these people were able to not only survive, but reverse their condition. So is there a cure for these conditions? Possibly. It depends on the physical constitution of each individual. But what I will do as a consultant, as a researcher, and health practitioner, I will find the most appropriate modality, the most appropriate food therapy and lifestyle change that you would need to take you to the next level of health. If you trust Dr. Botanica to take you to the next level, I'm sure you will not be disappointed. My track record is impeccable. My research is impeccable. For those of you who are familiar with my book, Medicine, I published in 2005, The Causes and Solutions to Disease, Malnutrition, and the Medical Sins That Are Killing the World. That book was an award-winning book. Now I have Stealing a Woman's Treasure. And guess what? This spring, I will release two phenomenal books, Nutricins and Whole Foods, The Miseducation of the Health Nut. I've been around some phenomenal mentors, clinicians, pioneers of the health food industry. Linus Pauling, studied the work of Linus Pauling, the work of Albertson Georgie, for those of you familiar with him. I've just been very fortunate, and I take your health concern very, very serious. And I'm able to provide you with the most medicinal, most effective products in Ayurveda medicine, in traditional Chinese medicine, in homeopathy, in naturopathy, food therapy, metabolic therapy. Come join me, Dr. Botanica, and allow me to take you to a new horizon of health. You will not be disappointed nor disenchanted.
Well, thank you and welcome. See, I couldn't read all that stuff. Welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G, Dr. Botanica. It is so great to have you on my show. I am ecstatic. We have had conversations. I'm excited about some things that you have recommended for me, but I thought it was best because I realized when I started reading that and I was stumbling over that bio, that wasn't the one that I edited and I couldn't find it. So I was trying to read it. But listen, you have had a wonderful background in history, not history, I don't like that word, but background with holistic medicine. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, a person who has been studying natural medicine since the age of 10.
Well,
Welcome.
yeah, right just before the age of 10. And I was always intrigued because my mother and my grandmother were gardeners. So I was very, very close to nature. Okay.
Mhm.
Fishing, you as a kid catching tadpoles, which unfortunately, a lot of our offspring today, young people don't have that connection
True.
because their parents were so busy working and maintaining. They didn't take the time out on the weekend to take them to a lake and or a pond. And then unfortunately, because of the industrial industry, a lot of that was neutralized. But yeah, I developed a passion at a very early age. Was always very conscious of what I consumed, and so from that point, no matter what career I chose, whether it be corporate America, radio, I was pursuing a baseball career, and my I always had that that inner desire to know more, and when it comes to natural living and eating.
So that, but in when um you discovered that your father, first of all, I think the first thing it said you must have learned about the dangers of smoking because that's in your bio that you encouraged your parents to stop smoking. But and were you successful?
Absolutely. When I saw the ad, this man allowed his condition to be illustrated. I don't know which magazine. I don't remember the magazine, but it was a very very gross illustration of cancer of the mouth,
Mm.
and you can see the destruction of the mouth, the tongue, the palate, and and giving an illustration of what smoking uh, can contribute to that type of disease. So when I cut the article out and I showed it to my mom and my father, and they were like, "No, get that out of my face." And I'm like, "No, you got to stop smoking." She was smoking Pall Mall Gold. My dad was smoking Camels at the time, unfiltered. And so I kept drilling them with it. I kept showing it to them day in and day out. So within, I would say around 4 months later, they actually stopped smoking.
Well, that's good. That's good. But your father, unfortunately, it appear how long after that did was your father diagnosed with cancer?
By coincidence, right around that time, I didn't know that, but he was diagnosed with stomach cancer,
Okay.
and went through some therapy, and from that point, he was disappointed in the conventional approach, so he decided to go ahead and just deal with it. Okay. There was a physician that told him if he did not change his lifestyle at that time, and a matter of fact, the medical doctor had an emphasis in holistic medicine, and he recommended my father change his diet, stop smoking, stop drinking, whatever, and otherwise he would be live about 10 years, and he was pretty much right on point. He passed away unfortunately when I was going on 18 years old.
Okay, so it wasn't right around that time, but he did change his ways. But again, a lot of times, I guess, even when a person has a diagnosis that may be very dire, if in in the sense, are you as a holistic practitioner ever able to prolong and improve the quality of life to give them more time or more comfort in spite of?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, once the person has been diagnosed, or the man or woman's been diagnosed with a condition, and you see the underlying cause. The main objective is to find the underlying cause. And as like in my father's case, most people at that time have ate, they would eat luncheon meats, and luncheon meats carry, they're preserved with sodium nitrate, nitrate, and other preservatives, in meat today that we see in today, nitrate, nitrites, that are actually carcinogens. So yeah, so when you consume, it's like when you buy produce. Sometimes produce. I was in the store, and I love cherries. And I saw on the label that it had a warning label that it contains sulfur dioxide.
Hmm.
Well, sulfur dioxide is a preservative that's also in wine. Okay, and sulfur dioxide is a carcinogen. So he put that warning label. It was from Chile, and you can smell. It kind of smells like sulfur slash gunpowder.
Hmm.
Very irritating smell. But you rinse it off. But so the average consumer would not pay that pay that attention. It just they'll continue to consume it because most people don't read labels.
So you're saying that even our fruits are well, we know that a lot of times there are pesticides that are being used on fruits and vegetables, but in the case of cherries having sulfur dioxide, would that have been as a result of a pesticide, or is that a result of just
Well,
the?
sulfur dioxide is used as a preservative, especially when it's imported. So when you look at produce, produce does not only contain pesticides. You're talking about insecticides, fungicides. You're talking about probably 8,000 different chemicals that are used in the industry to preserve produce. And so we take in that every day. And so people have assume that they can just put it under water and wash it off or use the vegetable wash. Well, during the growth process, it's taking in all these chemicals. So that's what's causing the harm at a cellular level. And that's when I try to remind people, organic produce is a much better choice. It's an investment. You're going to pay a little bit more, but if you cut the consumption down, you can actually have a much more vibrant life, and you can reduce the risk over time of those conditions. But almost everything we consume on a daily basis, contains some form of chemical that can contribute to chronic and physical degeneration.
And that's discouraging because especially when you talk about the fruits and vegetables, because a lot of people are moving away or trying to live a plant-based life or so forth, and you think that you're doing something better, but now you just have another form. It might even be a more concentrated form of of something that's harmful to you. If that you're saying even in the growing process, these things are absorbed into the actual, I guess, essence of the fruits and vegetables. And so even washing them off, it sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying doesn't take away the toxicity or the danger that might be over a long term. Is it long-term use? Or I mean, what should we stop eating? I mean, what can we eat?
Well, I get that question a lot. What can I eat? Uh, you know, of course, you're not going to consume everything organic. You're not going to buy everything organic. So you want to consume these foods in moderation. Of course, you're seeing now where we're going into the seedless age, almost. And anyone that studies religion, I mean, you look in scripture, everything, every fruit has a seed. Now we're going into the seedless produce. So we
Mm.
have to be mindful of that. If you're consuming something that's cannot reproduce, guess what's going to happen generations from now? You're
You
going to
won't be able. Will it affect your reproductive?
yeah, because you're talking about something that's going to eventually change your DNA. It's going to change that function over time. So we have to get back to nature. First of all, during the Industrial Revolution, the topsoil was ruined, because what most people don't realize, produce only requires nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Okay. We're missing all the other trace elements and minerals in produce. That's why you have to supplement your diet. You cannot just rely on produce, or I eat fruits and vegetables every day. And, here in America, we just have a misconception. And this is why you see people with all these chronic and degenerative conditions over time, is because over time, the body because the body has not been getting the nutrients that it needs, the trace minerals, the cofactors, the trace elements, the enzymes, the vitamins and minerals, other micronutrients, is because we're buying things that are very close to being dead, even though they appear to be alive. For example, I know 4 women who were vegan for 20 years, and the 4 women ended up with 3 of the 4 ended up with triple negative breast cancer. Okay, because they were also consuming soy, and there was a lot of people during this vegan revolution consuming soy milk, soy cheese, soy meat. Didn't realize if it was not fermented, it would compromise something called a P53, P52 gene, tumor suppressor gene that reduces the risk of breast cancer. And these women ended up with triple negative breast cancer, and they passed on. I was able to.
How do you get? Yeah, there's a lot of soy, especially people buying, and I've even used soy. But so how do you determine what? And listen, while I'm saying that, listen, you guys in the chat room, I know y'all are having sidebar chats, but listen, you need to listen to this, please. Give us that like and press, like and share. There's other people that need to hear what is being said and going to be said tonight. So if you would be so kind, my kinfolk, and share and like this video and try to stay on in the moment of what we're learning, I would greatly appreciate it. But how does one can determine that their soy is fermented versus, when you just get a pack of, you go buy soy, this, that, and the third, is there any indication on the packages or anything that says that this is fermented versus, just the kind that's harmful?
No, you're not going to see that on the label, especially when you go to the health food store. There was a chapter in medicine called Soy, the Meatless Deception. And pretty much people just had a total misunderstanding. And so the forms of soy that you're going to consume in moderation are things like miso, tempeh, those, because you have to look at the history of soy. The Asian people have been knowing about soy for many, many years, but they avoided it because they knew that it contained a poison. Okay, so it wasn't until over 1,000 years later or so, if I'm not mistaken, when they discovered or developed the fermentation process, where they can create tofu and they can create tempeh, or miso soup over time, because fermented soy can be very medicinal. I have some products that are made from fermented soy that are used as an anti-cancer modality. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, for example, asparagus. You're not going to eat asparagus raw because it has an enzyme that needs to be neutralized by heat. So we have to just be mindful. And when I implement a protocol for people, I look at their blood type, look at what they're consuming. Most people don't really know how to eat. This is why so many people in America have, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, acid reflux, because we consume cold water, which shocks the spleen. And unfortunately, Western academia, they're not really educated on how the spleen really works. Mm-hmm. Because when you go to a restaurant, you drink cold water. They serve you cold water. People drink fluids and cold water while they're consuming food instead of relying on their own digestive enzymes to break down the food. So they shock the spleen. It's just like when you drop cold water on a hot skillet. That's the type of fusion that's going on in the spleen. So the spleen governs the entire digestive system. And so people are not told that. So this is why you're seeing people with the bloating, whether it be vegetarian or not, they have bloating, they have Crohn's disease, because also improper food combining. Meat and cheese don't go together. Bread and meat don't go together. and that's improper food combining. Fruit salad doesn't go together because you have acid and subacid fruit combining. So it's causing this fusion. So people have really never been informed on how to digest their food. Or, most people don't know you're supposed to chew your food about 32 times, before you swallow it. So, you relax and you chew your food so it can digest properly. This is why when you go to a Japanese restaurant, they serve you green tea. Well, the green tea jumpstarts the spleen. It prepares your digestive system for the consumption of why you're consuming the food. That's why they serve you that 4 ounces of or a small cup of green tea, as opposed to going to a standard American restaurant where they're giving you ice water already. They already setting your spleen up for imbalance, and then this improper food combining. You're not only, like most people that when they're at the dinner table, they talk, they look at TV. You're supposed to be concentrating on what you're consuming at that time, and so you're throwing everything out of balance. And then there's a exercise that you should do when you finish your meal. You should, in a circular motion, you should massage your stomach 20 to 30 times in a circular motion. So
is it clockwise or counterclockwise, or does it matter?
Clockwise, either or. We call it in Chinese, in Qigong, they call it rub the belly. Just rub the belly. And so you massage your stomach, and so you're going to have a better digestive process, and so times. We're not even familiar with the times that we should be consuming food and should not consume food. Between 7 and 9, your digestive system is most active, for example. Your large
Is that AM or PM?
AM. And so you break fast from sleep, overnight sleep. Breakfast, break fast. Okay. So you're consuming, so you should start your day off consuming tea, or something like juicing or something like that, instead of eating that heavy meal. Now, did you know the bacon and egg concept was created by Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew?
That guy, oh my goodness.
Yeah, who wrote the book Propaganda, The Making of the Mind. And so this is the same gentleman or same man that ushered fluoride into to the industry as well. But beech nut had a huge investment in pork. And at that time,
the beech nut that made the baby food, beech nut people?
Yeah, beech nut and the gum and all of that. Yeah.
Gum, okay.
And so they had, pork, and they were not selling enough pork. They wanted to promote more consumption of pork. So Edward Bernays created the concept about the whole thing about bacon and eggs. So you saw the middle class family on the highway on the billboard sitting at a table with bacon and eggs. So that over time became the standard choice of breakfast because of the advertising. That's how effective propaganda and advertising, how it gets into the mind. He was a genius. He was Sigmund Freud's nephew. So that's how bacon and eggs became the choice of breakfast. There is no rule about, you got to have pancakes, you got to have sausage and things like that for breakfast. You can have steamed broccoli, you can have brown rice, you can have black rice, you can have red Bhutanese rice. There's, most people in America, they're only used to the standard American diet. It's like rice. They only know white rice or brown rice. There's red Bhutanese. There's forbidden black rice. There's rice. There's a rice called ginger ma that's very nutritionally dense. You can have soba buckwheat noodles in the morning, udon noodles, or whatever. Or just some juicing in the morning. Most people don't juice. Everyone needs to invest in a juicer. Matter of fact, that's probably one of your best investments because you're getting something live within the body. You're jumpstarting your cells. You're improving even cerebral metabolism, which is blood flow, glucose, and oxygen to the brain. You're jumpstarting your cognitive function. So yeah.
I have someone in the chat is asking whether or not honey is good, because I know why they're asking, because a previous guest said one thing. So what is your take on the use of honey?
But my personal take, I mean, raw honey, you have these different gurus who have their different opinion, but I have yet to see someone have a heart attack or anything or some detrimental disease. I do not advocate anything other than raw honey because a lot of the honey is reconstituted, is refined, cooked, where it breaks down to more sugar. And but yeah, honey, in my opinion, if it's raw, some people may disagree, but I don't find anyone experiencing a chronic or degenerative disease unless they have an allergy from honey. But yeah, I do because you have Manuka honey, and Manuka
Right.
honey
That's expensive.
is very expensive and it's very medicinal. So yeah, I mean, it's like almost to each his own. One of the things I do put emphasis on is like as long as it's not refined. There's so many refined things out there, but there are many alternative.
Well, agave.
I'm not an advocate of agave. I mean, but again, no, to each his own. Now, I will say that now most people have never heard of xylitol.
I have.
Yeah, and xylitol is a great alternative sugar or sweetener, and it actually kills the bacteria that feeds like gingivitis. I actually do alternate oil pulling with the xylitol.
Oh, instead of using like coconut or oil or anything like that, you use xylitol to
Yeah,
actually. It's
yeah.
don't you need oil to do oil pulling?
Well, I combine actually my own recipe. I combine the two. With I'll use sesame oil, sunflower oil, or coconut oil for oil pulling, and everyone should be getting into oil pulling because the gums in the mouth contain so much bacteria, and people always ask, "Well, I don't have the time." I said, "Well, do it when you first get up in the morning, while you're
Mhm.
getting yourself ready for whatever your daily activity is. For about 15 minutes. Take some Celtic salt. I prefer Celtic salt, which is from France.
Mhm.
You rinse that out so it gets rid of the additional bacteria. Then there's a toothpaste that has xylitol in there that you can also purchase. And but outside of that, we have been exposed to so many levels of toxins from the environment to the food that we consume, from the containers that it's in. It's just like when people ask me about being a vegetarian, and they always say, "Well, do you eat meat?" Well, I do consume animal protein. However, I do not consume animal protein in the standard grocery store. It has to be halal. Okay. And I tell people why, if you're not going to invest in halal or buy halal, don't eat animal protein. Number one, because the animals have feelings. Okay. And those animals on the commercial market have been slaughtered and abused. And
Mhm.
and that's the horrible thing about that. People are buying this animal protein, not realizing what this animal had went through and how it's processed. It's not properly slaughtered, it's not prayed over. It's just even if it's so-called grass fed. And again, this is my opinion. How's the cattle treated? Before it's slaughtered, whether it's grass fed or not. So people have in order to be connected with nature, you have to have compassion for the animals, for the domestic animals. So
I mean, if I was an animal, I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but if I were an animal, if you treated me horrible for all of my life, however short it was, or you treated me loving for that period, but you killed me in the end, I think my adrenaline would probably flow and be angry at the end just as much as it would during a whole life, you know, span. So in that case, to me, doesn't it stand to reason that even the fear, are you saying that it cuts down on the fear and the anger in the animal and they just die peaceably? They don't know what hit them, so you don't have the that.
use adrenaline. Yeah, because that's what's exact. They're anticipating death, so they're the fear and the anticipation of death. They're going. It's a natural response for the body to put out poisonous adrenaline, as opposed like when you're hunting your deer, and the deer's, it's even said that, if you're chasing a deer and you're trying to kill the deer, that poisons adrenal. So you have to have a clean kill, So people
So
have,
what does that do to the consumer of a meat product that has maybe is poisoned with adrenaline? Is what does that do? What is that? What would that do if in fact somebody eats meat?
What over time what happens is saturates it. Actually, is not even it compromises the spirit and the human physiology and the human body. It compromises a lot of things, the way your body functions. You don't even digest it well. I mean, there's a lot of repercussions when you consume animal protein like that. And even chicken. I mean, and people, most people have like, oh, I gave up chicken. I gave up beef. Now I'm eating chicken, but they don't realize the chicken is just as, is worse than the actual beef or the lamb, because chickens carry a sarcoma virus, which is cancer causing. Okay, so it's natural. It's natural within their make. But again, life is about balance, because, most of us that live in a big city, do we see Asian people or people from East India in and out of the hospital, lining up for prescription drugs? No. And they eat some of everything, from duck to pork. And I'm not an advocate of pork at all. I'm not an advocate of eating animal protein because of the way animals are processed today. Yeah, I do suggest most people should become vegetarian. And if you're going to indulge in animal protein, it should be halal. But when you look at Asian people and you go to an Asian store, they have duck, they have tongue, they have all these different things on the counter, chicken feet or whatever, but you don't see them lined up in the hospital. You don't see them in the ER. You don't see the women having hysterectomies. You don't see men having the prostate problems or the arthritis. I mean, most, even I've met Asian practitioners that were in their 90s. Matter of fact, those who are not familiar with Dr. Lee Ching Young, who actually lived over 200 years.
200 years?
Yeah, he was born in 1677, according to the study, and died in 1933. What happened was there was a journalist from New York that went over there and when he heard about this, and of course they wanted to do an investigation. So they could not pinpoint the year he was actually born. But so he went by a lot of the archives that were over there in China. But he did discover that he did live at least 2 centennials. Famous, yes, it's a true story. In the Material Medical book, I have illustrations in there where there were men. There was one man that was like almost 140, and his son was 119. But again, you're talking about ancient Chinese secret. What they do is they make their soups and their stews medicinal, because they may put like some astragalus in there, or hung chi in the soup. They may put andrographis in there. They may put some other type of herb actually in the soup to make it more medicinal. So this is why we don't see the Asian people in and out of the hospital. We don't see the Eastern Indian women in and out of the hospital. We don't see the Japanese people. Now, mind you, the Japanese, for example, they had an elevation in colon cancer because they started taking on these standard American diet, sugar and things like that. Sugar can proliferate all type of chronic diseases and inflammation because, it's sugar. It's very acidic. Just like most people say, I eat a lot of fruit. Well, you should only eat a small portion of fruit based on the scientific data. You should have maybe about 15% of the fruit, because sugar gives you energy, but it can also slow you down, if you consume too much of it. So it's all about balance.
Wow. So it's almost like you don't know what you can eat. I know somebody had a question about mucus. I know there are a lot of foods that are mucus. I had a conversation with you before we went live, but what can you tell us about mucus and what, I guess that would that also tie in with inflammation?
Absolutely. Most people have a lot of trapped phlegm in the body. Uh, this is why allergies and sinus conditions are so prevalent in this country, because they consume too much mucus forming food. As you know, Dr. Sebi was a big advocate of the mucusless diet, so to speak. And because we have trapped phlegm, this is why we have respiratory problems, we have inflammation, stiffness, and not to mention, as you get older, your body produces more fibrin, not fiber, but fibrin.
Fibren or in. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like cobwebs collecting the blood cells. So you don't have the get up and go as you did when you were a teenager, when your body was not producing the fibrin like that. But after 35, 40 years old, you start producing more fibrin, you get stiff. So that's where things like the systemic enzymes comes in, because it eats away the fibrin. Most people are not familiar with systemic enzymes.
Now, are these something that we would consume as like a supplement?
Yeah, and if it's a supplement, there are certain brands that you want to consume. Systemic enzymes go all the way back to the 1860s, and it's a very effective supplement depending on the brand. But we go through again the aging process. It's like most people don't realize after 35, you lose half your brain cells, half your neuron activity. You're not getting the your cerebral metabolism is compromised again, which is blood flow, glucose, and oxygen to the brain. We don't get enough glucose and oxygen to the brain, and in some Asian stores they even sell straight glucose, and you use a small amount of glucose because that is the preferred carbohydrate by the brain. Okay, so we don't get enough circulation, and as we talked about, mentioned briefly about why I participate in qigong every morning, because we have to keep that blood flow going throughout the body, and so that it's there are different levels of health, but you have to create that synergy. But at the same time, you still need to keep it simplistic. I don't like to make it complicated for people, but I try to advocate, hey, keep your diet simple. It doesn't have to be extravagant. A lot of again, I looked at, I worked, in the industry, and I observed what a lot of Asian people do as far as the traditional diet. They thrive on their ancestral diet. So do people from East India, people from the continent, from Africa, from Akupta rather. They thrive on their own ancestral diet. Our bodies are compromised because we have been indoctrinated with the standard American diet, and which is why one of the reasons I wrote this book here, and it talks about how toxic body care.
What book is that? Is that
Stealing a Woman's Treasure?
Oh yeah, can we? Yes, we here. Let me this book here.
Yeah.
I've got it up. Talk about that. That book.
Again, when you look at most hysterectomies in this country are unnecessary. But again, when you talk about mucus, you talk about blood stasis and things like that. That manifests through the toxicity and the collection of toxic food that people consume every day. And it's like they still claim that they don't. The industry still claims that they don't know where fibroids come from. Well, fibroids come from an abundance of estrogen and abundance of blood stagnation. So the tumor, as it gets larger, guess what? It wants to collect more blood. So the fibroids get bigger and bigger and bigger, from a pea size to a golf ball size, grapefruit, watermelon size, because of the blood stagnation. So no one had told these women, hey, your body's drowning in estrogen. We gotta, neutralize that. We gotta change the diet. What's your blood type? All these different things. What are you doing? So it's not just the approach is, this is why they call it holistic medicine. It's not just about supplementation. It's about diet. It's about exercise, breathing, detoxification, so our women are drowning in estrogen because of the products they consume, the makeup, the fingernail polish, the shampoo elevates the estrogen. It's what they call xenoestrogens. Okay. Xenoestrogens are synthetic estrogens that come from not just the bisphenol A from plastic. Okay. Though plastic is one of the primary culprits in estrogen dominance. Matter of fact, give you a little history on that. Because back in the day, they were putting beverages in glass. And there's some companies putting beverages back into glass because they're finding out the plastic is highly toxic. Now you have BPA bottles. But in the early 1970s, Coca-Cola.
You mean BPA free?
BPA free, yeah. I'm sorry, BPA free. So Coca-Cola hired Monsanto because they want to transcend into a lighter way to produce beverages and I guess cut down on costs. So they hired Monsanto to produce the plastic for them. Pepsi followed suit and hired Amoco Chemical Company to produce the plastic for them. So next thing you know, you had the beverages in plastic, not to mention the phosphoric acid that's in the beverage is eating away and extracting the chemicals. So the next thing you know, women are developing fibroids, again, hormonal imbalance, from this bisphenol A from the plastic. And in addition to that, I used to have people back in the day say, "Oh, drink distilled water." I'm like, well, you're drinking distilled water from plastic bottles. Guess what? It's extracting that toxicity, that chemical toxicity. So if you're going to use distilled water, that's a different process. But so that is these are some of the direct causes of the PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibrocystic breast conditions, fibroids, endometriosis, is coming from the chemicals that's creating hormonal imbalance. Like I say, our sisters are drowning in estrogen. There have been many reports that saying, hey, commercialized shampoo, because of the conditions, the chemicals that it contains, proliferate breast cancer. Okay. So now you're seeing products that are paraben free, but that's not the only chemical. It's just like whenever something gets this a report comes out, then the commercialized companies want to get on the bandwagon. Oh, we don't have this, but you still contain all the other chemicals. It's like now when you buy cereal, you'll see a lot of the cereals that say, oh, no high fructose corn syrup, but you still have toxic dye. You still have glyphosate, okay, which is I talk about in Stealing a Woman's Treasure. Almost all the granola out there, all the grains out there, thanks to a particular company that use a certain pesticide, glyphosate is out, in practically everything. Highly toxic. So we're not being consumer educated and reading enough. It's like, with this whole virus scare, everybody's using the hand sanitizers.
Talk about that.
Yeah, not realizing it contains something called triclosan. Okay. Well, triclosan is a chemical used in a hand sanitizer, and it is a endocrine disruptor. What is the endocrine disruptor, or what is it's associated with the endocrine system? The adrenals, pituitary, thyroid system. So it's compromising that. So you go into the store, everywhere you go, people just can't. They're just repulsive. They're just putting the hand sanitizer in the hand everywhere they go. The restaurant, grocery store, whatever, car, and don't realize that they're creating more toxicity. They're introducing more toxicity and also compromising their adrenal system instead of using just alcohol or whatever. So we have to stop feeding into the constant propaganda. We have to start becoming more educated. We have to start reading and subscribing to like channels like yours, and office hours and House of Reawakening Minds, because you're going to have people on here that's going to re-educate our people and guiding them into the right direction. I've read many books, and this is not new, and matter of fact, there was a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston Price, a European dentist that went around the world, and basically, now this is a European, and he stated, because of the white man foods of commerce, tooth decay and bone deformities ran rapid. This is his own quote. So white sugar is a drug, white flour is a drug, but again, we were manipulated. And I'm sure most of us that are at least beyond 40 remember a certain bread brand builds the body 12 ways. But it actually broke down the body probably in 24 ways because it was refined, and that was the foundation of mucus and phlegm in the body. Okay, because it's when you talk about breads and most people don't read the labels. It's like you see it right there. It says bleach enriched flour. That's toxic.
Anything enriched is toxic. See, like I said, we've been indoctrinated. That's what you said, and that's the problem. We have been indoctrinated, and it's like you may not use, what illicit drugs or alcohol, but if you, like most of us, are addicted to foods that have a toxic or poisonous, effect on the body, then and we keep eating and keep consuming, we don't know, how do we get ourselves out of this? How do we detox? How do we break the spell of the things that have been put on us? And we've been told that, because we taste, if we've never been given sugar, we probably would never have a desire for sweet things, but it was introduced, and we tend to even give it to children and so forth. And then they get and have an addiction to it. So what do adults do to begin to detoxify themselves, or to pull themselves away from the addiction to sugar, white flour, bread, that think we have to have bread at every meal, and all these things that we've been indoctrinated in? What do we do? I'm pretty sure it's a mind thing, but what would you tell a client that was coming to see you and saying, you see that they have this issue, that issue, this, and they're mostly related to what they consume. So how would you sit that client down to at least get them in the mindset to pull away from things?
Well, just making them more aware, first of all, that what they're currently consuming is contributing to the chronic and degenerative dis-ease that they're experiencing. Most people, first of all, don't even keep themselves hydrated. I run across so many people that don't still like to drink water. I ran into people thought that having a bowel movement once a week was normal. And so these people, unfortunately, are out of harmony with nature. And this is when you travel to indigenous countries, South America, various continents and islands, you see people that have beautiful skin. They're connected with nature. We have been indoctrinated by something called television programming. Okay, so whatever we see on TV, we buy it. Just like when people see infomercials on a certain product, they go out and buy it, don't realize, well, who's the manufacturer? Where's the raw material coming from? Okay, so again, all this stuff started with Edward Bernays, The Making of the Mind, and getting into your head because they know what appeals to you. Okay, so regarding detoxification, most people, again, have trapped phlegm, trapped mucus, so they have to. So I try to encourage them as, hey, whatever, give me a list of what you consume on a daily basis, and more than likely 90% of their diet is highly toxic, because and I'll be honest with you, I've been in grocery stores mostly in the urban area, you know, and I was hungry, but I had to walk out of there with nothing, because was nothing in there was actually fortifying. When you walk down these aisles in the grocery store, most of the time, there's almost no nutritional value. You're about, you know, and it's technically you're better off buying a high quality animal product or pet food. Because if you look at the ingredients in pet food, you'll see a whole line of trace elements and minerals. What do you see when you buy our food or for humans? Protein, carbohydrates, sodium, potassium. You never see a mineral content. And the body is comprised of trace elements and minerals. You know, so that's
We're
what.
not advocating that we eat pet food. Let's make that clear. Okay, because I'm pretty sure someone's like, what the, you know.
But I mean, and so we have to get into if it does not contain life, that's my philosophy. It cannot give life. So we have to.
I got to get this in another bottle, but I'm actually drinking Haritaki.
Oh, okay. You talked about that.
I poured from a glass. I have a big 3-4 gallon glass container that is in, but I figure I could consume this quicker before the plastic leaches into it. But this is actually Haritaki water that I'm
okay. So it looks like maybe a BPA free bottle.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. It's supposed to be alkaline, pH, whatever. But anyway, Haritaki's in the bottle.
Okay. Well, you get away with it. That's the problem is when going back to meat, animal protein. When people don't realize this animal protein is layered in plastic and it's sitting on the shelf, in the cooler for weeks.
Yeah.
So you're consuming all that toxicity that's in the animal instead of going to a butcher and having them put it in wax paper. Okay. Just like with I visit people's homes where they would put this cover over their food. I'm not even an advocate of microwave food, but they have this cover now where they cover their food so the food or the sauce won't splatter, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they don't realize is the microwave is changing the molecular structure of the food. So the molecular structure of that plastic is going into the food that you're getting ready to consume.
Wow.
They don't realize that. So, and it was, and there's a story behind the whole thing about microwave. That's a whole nother subject matter. But
I gave mine away. It's one of those things where, they say, well, if it's bad for you, it's bad for anybody else, but everybody doesn't see it that way. So take almost new microwave and say, here, take it. And so now, when I have to heat stuff up, I have to put it in a pan. I have stainless steel pans and I heat it up, or I use the oven. I have a small toaster oven and a regular oven. So I just heat it that way. It's a little bit inconvenient, but I feel better that the microwaves are not, going into the food or even into the, atmosphere. But you've gotten used to these. My grandmother and my mother either, we didn't have those things. Well, by the time at some point, my mother probably did get one, because she just transitioned in 2002. But grandma cooked everything. Everything was fresh. And like you said early on, even about going fishing and being in nature, I spent summers with my grandparents and they always went fishing and ad nauseum to the, so I know about fishing. But unfortunately, and I don't know whether it was preserved or not back then, like 50 some years ago, 60 years ago. I'm trying to be younger, but grandma would always make sandwiches and everything. She cooked chicken and, she'd have lunch meat sandwiches and bologna sandwiches, and they pack a cooler and, we go off down to the fishing like 2 or 3 times a week, maybe. That was our pastime.
And I mean, it's the process, it's the preparation of the food that people consume. It's not even so much as if you're going to be a carnivore, that's fine, but it's the way the food is processed today, even in the health food industry, which is what caused me to develop the title Whole Foods: The Miseducation of the Health Nut.
I want to pull that book. I want to pull that book cover up because I just think that is that's actually let me see. So this is a forthcoming book.
Yeah, it'll be coming out this spring.
So it's not Whole Foods, y'all. It's Whole Fools. You don't want to be a Whole Foods fool.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I mean, and again, when you talk about, you see a lot of vegetarians and vegans, they indulge in processed food, and all this, alternative cheese, alternative this and that is still packaged and it's still processed.
I buy that stuff. I bought that stuff. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
But I mean, you look at when you go to the Asian market. I shop at the Asian market. Most of my grocery comes from the Asian market because I consume like the soba buckwheat noodles, the udon noodles, the azuki bean, which is very good for the kidney. My meals are basically very, very simplistic. I don't get into the extravagant meal. I do a lot of stir fry. And you'd be surprised once you start consuming more truly nutrient dense foods, you probably end up eating just once a day. Because most of the time I start my morning off with either coffee, like from the ration, not your regular coffee, but it's like the Ganoderma coffee.
I was going to ask you about Ganoderma.
Yeah, the Ganoderma coffee. I have my own concoction. May have some cacao, put some cacao in there. I made Ovaltine. Sometimes I do Ovaltine.
You mean the original in the jar, old time Ovaltine, or your own version of Ovaltine?
No, I actually do the original, but not the Ovaltine in the commercial market. The Ovaltine that's actually imported and it's like in the Asian stores, different from the Ovaltine, because what people realize when you travel overseas, there are certain ingredients that are banned over there.
I know.
Just like body care, the ingredient panel in body care over here, you won't find it over in Europe. Okay, just like you won't find the GMOs over there. So again, this is a free fall, and this is the land of capitalism. There's no regulation on what they can contain. Everybody wants to get paid over here.
Right.
So you want to be mindful of what you consume. Like, for example, going back to detox. Now, there are different ways to detox. Again, starting with getting into juicing, going into fasting, doing a colon cleanse. Is not, you don't have to just go get a colonic, because some people.
I was going to ask you what you thought about colonics, because I go up to, that's what I do. When I feel like I need a jump start, sometimes I go,
Colonics are, colonics colonics go all the way back to ancient Kemet, but we just want to be mindful not to get addicted to that, because it will compromise your natural flora in the large intestine. So you can just do a standard colon cleanse, and there's no one track or one particular style of detoxification. Okay, most people have never heard of a castor pack. A castor pack is.
I have it. Tell me how to do. I got castor oil. I got a heating pad that goes around me. I got this gauze. I got that. Yeah. So I've got it. I just don't know how to, put it together right.
Yeah, what you get in a hot water bottle, a wool or cotton flannel cloth, and some plastic, and you put it over your liver and you relax. And it's going to help pull those toxins out of the liver. Well, most people realize is fat, for example. The liver holds up to 7 pounds of fat. Okay, so that's why the juice feasting is very important, because when you go through the ketosis, you're tricking the liver. Okay, so
someone asked about the ketogenic state. What's your feelings on that? I did see that in the questions.
Yeah, well, what you're doing is you're tricking the liver when you're going through that phase. So what happens is the liver it's going to consume the fat cells that's stored in there. My mentor back in 1995, I was weighing 242 pounds, and that was my first experience with juice feasting. Okay, I had did carrot, beet, celery, and well, the first day you do all low glycemic fruit, and if you're diabetic, you may want to definitely have someone consult you. But all fruit the first day, then you get into like carrot, beet, celery, combined in the afternoon, maybe with some fruit juice, drink plenty of green tea or ginger tea throughout the day. And then, of course, going into the third or fourth day, you're going to have those hunger pains, okay, because you're going through the ketosis. So what's happening is you're tricking the liver, and it's going to start consuming and gobbling up the fat cells in the liver. Now, when I started this, I went from 242. This is gospel. 242, 3 weeks later, to 208 pounds.
3 weeks.
In 3 weeks. So I ran every morning. My mentor and I, we jogged about 30 minutes every morning, and you keep yourself hydrated. If you got to cheat, get something like miso soup or broth if you're gonna cheat. Which I did at the time, and so but I mean, you just feel phenomenal because you've gotten rid of all that crap. The body will purge. It's a natural biological process that the body will purge what it does not need. And so there are many, like I said, that's one of the best approaches is the juice feasting. And like I said, with my mentor, who was a phenomenal, he's a doctor of Oriental Medicine who I trained under in Southern Florida. But you just be, the vitality that you will develop from that. Now, Dr. G, I never told you this. I was diabetic when I was younger. I had, but had never been on medication. Never been on medication. Yeah. But what my mom and my grandmother did was just monitor my blood, the sugar intake, and make sure I ate properly. Because I didn't really start eating. I think when I first started consuming fast food on my own, I think I was probably about maybe 16, 17 when I started. Because I would always eat home. I mean, lima beans or But so what's happening right now with the younger people, they're going to experience so many different types of chronic and physical forms of physical degeneration starting at a cellular level because they came out the gate consuming toxic food, processed food and things like that. So that you're talking about a great damage that will be done to the human body just from that out the gate. Because and I really feel bad for the younger generation because the parents are not they're not educated on how to really bring up a child, and basically and what we can do is start giving them foods that, like, for example, whether it be Asian or African or whatever, giving them rice, beans and things like that instead of this processed food. Get them used to it, to consuming celery, as a snack. Get used to carrots as a snack. So you can actually train, your brain to consume these foods. You don't have to be, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Repetition is the mother of all skill. Okay. So once you start getting into the habit of doing things, I don't even want that. I used to love chocolate. I can walk by chocolate at will now. So once you apply that,
I can't yet.
So but there are so many. I like to introduce people to so many different modalities because, again, I had that pioneer training. So things like, for example, this is called BioStrap, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the formulas that I use to help children improve their cognitive function. This is phenomenal. This has been around since 1964.
Is that like an alternative to stuff like Ritalin and all those, whatever they're giving these to children these days? Is that when you say cognitive, or is it just their brain function so they can think more?
It will just improve their brain function. I started taking that when I was 17. Okay. I was a baseball player, and I was just, again, being in nutrition, I want to just enhance my athletic ability. Okay, so I went to this health food store where they had an actual clinical nutritionist on staff. So I would constantly go there and pick his brain. And he introduced me to the BioStrat, back then. And I've been taking it on and off since then, And I'll tell you, just even from my personal experience at my age, I've never been on medication in my life. I've had some severe injuries as an athlete, and and I can sprint up the stairs. Sometimes I'll do a 3-mile walk at random, and so the body has the ability to repair itself if you give it the right modality. You have that capability. You have a phenomenal immune system. You have a phenomenal elimination system. We just have to get back and reconnect with nature, as I always state. I'm one of the things I specialize in is bioidentical hormone testing also. Okay. And that's when you could take a sample of your saliva, your plasma, or your blood, and the laboratory can measure everything that goes on. You technically have to go see a doctor. These like there's a saliva hormone test.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm a provider for a laboratory. Even neurotransmitter tests for people that are going through psychological problems, depression. Because a lot of times, even with it can be a number of things. So we really don't understand enough about the human body. We even do the, the what they call the cardiometabolic profile, and because people always are concerned about cholesterol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, cholesterol is not the absolute marker for heart disease. It's something called homocysteine, which is a toxic byproduct, which can be actually reversed with three basic supplements. Okay. So I talked about that in my book Medicine, where the professor that discovered that was fired by the university when he made that discovery. But because the brain has to have cholesterol. Okay, there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. But there are things there's so many different things out there. There's something called Willard water. Most people have never heard of this.
Willard water.
Yeah.
No, Dr. Willard.
Yeah.
Okay.
What it does, it changes the molecular structure of the water. I've seen people with 3rd-degree burns put this under skin, and that rejuvenated the skin. But yeah, there's just so many different. When you talk about detoxification, again, there's not one, like I say again, one style. There's the lymphatic brushing. There's the standard colon cleansing. Yeah, there's many different types of fast also, not just juice, juice.
Oh yeah, I used to see when you talk about the skin brushing. I mean, I've got there's a guy who kind of pioneered this, and his brushes in his name. But I've got the brush you're supposed to, brush before you get in the shower. It'll tell you do the brushing and all that, and do it in a certain way and all that stuff. And unfortunately for me, I start things, and then I something happens and I don't finish it, and that's probably why I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm like, well, it doesn't really work. Well, it only works if you use it consistently, I'm pretty sure. Same thing with supplements. You have to be able to take them when you're supposed to, and in the amount that you're supposed to, for as long as you're supposed to. So someone asked what the name of that water was. You said it's a Dr. Willard's water. Now, is this something that is available on your
Yeah, because you don't find it anymore. Of course, unfortunately, the big corporate health food store we know now has ran a lot of the good mom and pop stores out of business. So they don't carry those. You don't see these things like the Willet Water or BioStrath a lot of places. And like I said, I'm an advocate of keeping things simplistic. You have much better health. You see a lot of people that that buy a lot of stuff and they still maintain or still have the same condition because they have not stuck with something long enough
to
to
see a
see
result.
to see the results. But so it's a combination of things. I mean, and also I'm still an advocate of the eat right, where we talked about the eat right for your blood type.
Yep, you sure did. Look, I'm trying to reach. Let me see. I'm going to come back out. I'm going to be blurry. This is what yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Diamato, who was a second generation researcher
Yeah,
in the blood type, because when you consume, if you're type, say for example, if you're type O, or type O, if you're trying to, you got to be real mindful if you're going to become vegan or vegetarian, because your body requires some type of animal protein, or and some people may not agree, but there are certain things that will slow down your metabolism. If you whether you're type A, type AB, type O, you should be mindful. And some people, I have allergies all the time. I'm like, well, what are you consuming? It may be something you're consuming. Like for example, I used to like cashews, but cashews is not conducive to consume on a regular basis. And I'm not saying don't ever do it. Type O people are not supposed to consume dairy because they don't produce the enzyme to break down the lactase, the milk sugar. They don't have to produce the lactase enzyme. So, but I'm not saying, hey, you can't ever have this, but don't consume it on a regular basis, and so we need to be mindful about this. So life and health itself is a science and it's a phenomenal subject matter that we all should study. And for those of you, especially people that have, like offspring, or if you can influence your niece, nephew, or whatever, to get into reconnecting them with nature, having them to grow something simplistic. It's just like tomatoes, for example. Most people that indulge in tomatoes have allergies. They may need to refrain from tomatoes because tomatoes are mucus forming. And most people don't know that.
Really? They consider a nightshade, right?
Yeah, nightshade.
And as is what is that thing? The purple thing. What are those things?
What, the eggplant?
Eggplant's a nightshade, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, eggplant's a nightshade. But again, it can be medicinal because an amazing thing about nutritional science, things like tomato may contain 10,000 nutrients that have yet to be discovered. So there's a lot of this is why you're seeing, matter of fact, when they discovered the L-theanine from green tea, that actually helps induce sleep.
Oh, so as long as is green tea caffeine free, or is it you'd have to get caffeine free green tea? Because normally tea will make you. Now I like tea. I got a teapot upstairs, electric teapot. But I'm always leery as to what will, it's two things. The old thing was drink tea and pee, which if you drink it at night,
right,
probably wake up and have to, you drink a cup and expel about a gallon. So is that what it does? Does it stimulate the process? Is that what happens?
Yeah, and well, first of all, there's different types of. We always use this term loosely, green tea. There are several different types of green tea that have different medicinal benefits and properties. There's lung qi, there's young hai san, there's gunpowder green tea. There's several other types out there of green tea. And
somebody asked also about like oregano tea, and because I do have some of that. Like there's olive leaf tea, there's oregano teas, those kinds of teas. What do you recommend with regard? And of course, I already know you approve of the chaga chaga mushroom
Oh,
tea.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
chocolate's great. I mean, it's different. I always, have a collection of teas because they all serve a purpose. It can be a straggler's tea. It can be ginger. It can be bitter melon for those who have blood sugar problems.
oh, I
Um,
have some of that. See
yeah,
that
bitter melon.
bitter melon.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. I mean, there's Lohangal. There's different types of teas out there.
now, what's Lohan good for? Because I got some of that down there. I told you I've got the little squares of it.
Yeah, Lohan is actually good for the respiratory system.
I need that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. So you can buy the squares, which are the infusion, or you
Uh-huh.
can get one that's in a sachet, sachet packet. So they all have. Lohan Gal has some. Matter of fact, as I told you before, when it first came on the market back in the mid '90s, for 20 tea bags, they want to. You can go to a health food store like it was one called Wild Oats, and it was like $26 to $28 just for a box of tea.
Mm.
That's how medicinal it was, but it really had just entered the market. Gynostemma, which is, or Xiao Gulan, the Chinese name, literally is a anti-aging. And this is based on science.
I
It's
need
not me saying it. Anti-aging. The one that I'm sending you, remember I told you about the spring dragon tea.
Okay, longevity tea. Yeah, keep
Yeah.
that around for a while.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Gal Gulan or gynostemma is literally a anti-aging, and when I say things that are anti-aging, I mean it's actually nurturing the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse inside the cell membrane. It's rejuvenating the kidneys because the kidneys are the essence of life, supporting the adrenals. But the spring dragon has some other adaptogens that's in there, which during this time everybody has to have an adaptogen because everybody's stressed from the propaganda and don't know what's going on, and they're stressed. The adrenals put out cortisol, which takes the whole body out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have, everyone has to have some type of adaptogen. And adaptogen mainly is associated with ginseng, whether it be Korean ginseng, which is the king of all ginsengs based on studies. Uh, and it's a very balancing ginseng, not like the Chinese Panax, which is a hot ginseng. But you also have American, you have Suma, you have rhodiola, which is phenomenal. You have Eleuthero or Siberian ginseng. You have Shizandra. So this gets into bringing the whole body back in balance. Your chi, your shin and jing. And like I said, we can go into talk about another segment about the shi, chin, and jing, just like the three doshas rather, in Ayurveda medicine. So
Okay.
you have these three principles of balance. And so this is why we see, if we observe how the Asian people, Eastern Indian people live, and kind of gravitate toward that and keep your life simplistic and find your ancestral diet and get away from the standard American diet that was influenced by the European worldview and in America. So we have to get back into, like I say, consuming food, because you see a lot of people that consume food 3 or 4 times a day because their bodies are not getting enough nutrition. You're not getting enough vitamins, enough minerals, or coenzymes, cofactors, trace elements, and things like that. So we're lacking nutrition. For example, most people are stressed, their adrenals are compromised and taxed. They don't take anything in the morning to jumpstart their adrenals. Like, for example, we hear about salt. It's not good for you from the standard medical professional, right? Well, your
Mm-hmm.
body your adrenals have to have salt. Your lungs have to have salt. Otherwise, you take the risk of, increase the risk of pulmonary edema. You have to have salt, but you can't, salt as sodium chloride is not so good because that's an isolate. Okay. So you have to have a synergistic salt like Himalayan or Celtic salt, which is from France. So you take a small amount of salt, like Celtic salt or Himalayan salt, in the morning to jumpstart your adrenals, or pantothenic acid, which is vitamin B5, or an adaptogen. You need to have that consume some type of adaptogen and something that's going to support that adrenal function to get you jump started in the morning. And yeah, go ahead. I thought you.
This question, I've seen this question. I just want to, once they want your advice for high blood pressure to someone in prison, says they work out, cardio, bodybuilding, weight lift, and drink plenty of water, but daily lack of fruits and vegetables, and they are in prison, and so you can only get what you get, but they're dealing with high blood pressure. Is there any advice for someone who can't get the proper fruits and vegetables, or in a situation like that, to lower their blood pressure?
Well, when you're dealing with blood pressure, you're talking about something for vascular flow. Something's going to support the kidney function. Again, going back to the adrenal. There's blood. People with hypertension have blood stagnation, and sometimes, like I said, compromised adrenal and kidney function. So there's no one direct modality. There are many things out there. It could be an arginine, which produces the nitric oxide once you consume it. That can contribute to lowering blood pressure. There are other like certain types of green tea. There's certain types of matter of fact, there's eucomia, Asian formula that has been shown to normalize blood pressure. Magnesium is a miracle mineral. Most people, over probably 80% of the population, incarcerated or not, are magnesium deficient. Okay, you have to have magnesium, and I'm not talking about magnesium stearate. That's a preservative, that's toxic. There's many different types of magnesium, oxide, citrate, malate, glycinate. So and the best magnesium will be the one that has that's comprised of that synergy, that gives you better bioavailability. Okay,
but in prison they can't get magnesium and they can't get those things. So
it needs to be against it needs to be a protest. Every prisoner needs to have magnesium. They need to have B complex. Those are across the board because magnesium calms the body down, it relaxes the muscles, and it reduces the risk of stroke and heart attack. You have to have, that's why they call it the miracle mineral. It's responsible for over 300 metabolic functions in the human physiology. B complex is a composition of different B vitamins: your thiamine, niacin, pantothenic acid, B6, B12. That also supports the liver and kidney metabolism. Most people that have a chemistry imbalance, what you call MCH or MCHC, these are toxic. It gets into that toxic range. Well, that's because they're lacking B vitamins. You have to have a B complex at least to keep the liver and kidney in balance and support that metabolic function.
Now, I bathe in magnesium. I have magnesium. I buy it by I guess it's like a big round. It's by Now, and I'll take when I get in the tub rather than shower, I'll put four cups of magnesium flakes in and soak for a half hour.
Yeah, because it was always right through the skin. There's magnesium spray.
I have that too.
Yeah. So magnesium is something that we cannot do without. I had an injury from playing baseball. Was in college. Well, I take it back. I was trying to get into the minor leagues at the time, but it was someone that threw a fastball, 90-mile-per-hour fastball, hit me on my right wrist, and from that point, I had some type of nerve damage. And so I ran into a chiropractor while I was in school. He's like, he said, well, first of all, you have an extreme magnesium deficiency. He said, did you know that most people are magnesium deficient? I said, no. He said, take a 500 milligram, and he recommended the brand that I should get that had that combination of malate, citrate, and oxide. And within 2 weeks, the hand stopped shaking. Because at one point I couldn't hold a coffee cup in my hand without my hand start shaking. And that was and the magnesium was the exact nutrient that remedied the problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I'm looking to see if there are any other questions. Can
Oh,
we get a list
let
of
me,
those
let,
teas?
let me
Someone asked
mention
me for a list of teas. I guess you had mentioned, I could type some in if you tell me what they are again.
as far as the teas,
Yeah, were you
uh,
mentioning the ginseng,
the
Korean ginseng?
you could Korean ginseng tea, and again, you want to be mindful if you have hypertension. American ginseng, of course, ginger. Uh, with the crisis we're dealing with right now, I highly suggest
Astragalus. Yeah,
astragalus. Oh yeah,
astragalus.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
and astragalus that Shizandra, if you could find it.
SZ. I've seen that before. How do you spell that one?
Basically, Shizandra. I think it's Shizandra.
Oh,
And
okay.
Shizandra, yeah.
Okay. Those
Uh,
ones.
but there's as far as the immune response, if you can find the Ganoderma or reishi tea, chaga, if you find it, the chaga. There's for a tea advocate, yeah, you can't go wrong. You can combine the teas. You can combine the stragglers with green tea. You can combine ginger and green tea. Uh, one of the approaches that I suggest to my people is drink, several cups of hot green tea per day to get rid of the phlegm, to get rid of the mucus, to get into steaming. You know, most people have never gotten into steaming where you take a stainless steel pot and you put water in it. You slice up a couple lemons, couple limes, couple of oranges, and drop some eucalyptus and peppermint or lavender in there. And you put a towel over your head and you inhale, and it opens up the respiratory system. It's very effective.
What do you recommend at all? Anything like, for instance, like infrared, um, uh, getting in the like a steam thingy, the
Oh,
infrared type.
infrared, yeah, the sauna.
So yeah, I got one right here outside the
Oh, yeah,
door.
yeah, absolutely. Gets rid of a lot of toxins. It is a great modality for detoxification and bringing the toxins to the surface of the skin. Uh,
Okay.
this is why hot and cold showers are very, very important for the body. As hot as you can tolerate it, then turn it on as cold as you can tolerate it. That's why when you go to the bathhouses, you go from the hot to the cold to the
Oh,
ice.
I've done that before. We used to do that. We used to go. There's a place up in it was actually these are that Greek, like Russian or Greek bath, like
Yeah,
we
the
would
Greek
go
bathhouse. Yeah,
Greek bathhouses.
the bathhouse.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and we would
yeah.
go, the melanated folks, and we would have a session there. We all go meet there on a Sunday, and they have all the vegan or vegetarian food and so forth. But we go, we do all our rituals, and we get in the hot tub, and then we go in the room where they were stoking the
Ice
fire,
cold.
and we would
Yeah,
be giving
ice so
stuff
hot.
to the fire while you sitting in the sweat thing, and then you go from there and you plunge into this 5 foot ice cold thing, or you stand up in
Exactly.
the shower and pull the plug.
Exactly.
Then you go in the sauna room, the other with the wet sauna after the dry one, and then they beat you with grape leaves and massage.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
miss that.
it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's I used to go to one in Miami called the Russian bathhouse. There's one in Atlanta, the Korean bathhouse. It's a phenomenal therapy. I mean, again, people have been missing out on these, all these various modalities that actually can promote health and longevity. Again, it's just not about taking supplements or eating right. There are many different, frequency, listening to frequency, again, Qigong, where you're moving your,
I'm into frequencies. I do energy. I
yeah,
have the energy. We do the frequency scanning and so forth, and are able to. There's a question here about how we can determine our blood types. And I tried to get my son's blood type, and the doctor refused, only stating that they don't do it anymore. Do you do that? I mean, because I can actually scan a person and do like a blood test and a urine out. I don't know what the type is, but I know what's going on in it.
Yeah,
From
the therapy that you're talking about, your therapy is very effective. If they want to actually know the blood type, I have a kit that they can order, and it's a very simple kit. Matter of fact, it comes from the Diamato group and another group, and it's very simple. And it will point out whether you're type A, AB, O. Hopefully not RH negative, but
I have a friend that's RH negative.
well, we won't talk about that.
We don't talk about that because she is RH negative.
We don't talk about that. I mean, I'm hoping they falsified information.
It's not true.
But no, that's fine. I mean, that's but there's just a science behind all of that.
Yeah.
And
El Banjo's jumping up and down, and I could tell about ask you about sea moss. I mean, I do sea moss every day. I make my own. But what is your thoughts about consuming sea moss? Please don't say anything bad about sea moss.
No. Sea moss, anything like seaweed, sea moss, it's very rich in minerals. That's what makes it so effective.
Mm-hmm.
I have not used it medicinally. I have not sold it as a therapy. However, I love sea moss when I go down to Florida, and they may charge you hit you up for like $12, $14 for a 16-ounce smoothie or whatever. But it is very, very medicinal. I mean, serious side, it has a lot of trace minerals in there, and so that's what the body is lacking. And this is why we're so ill, because we're not getting the appropriate nutrition, and we're bombarded with all this packaged food, and going back into the proper eating. For example, did you know that you're not supposed to consume food between 11 and 1 a.m.
11 a.m. or 11 p.m.
11 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Why?
Okay.
I didn't know that. But why?
Because the cardiovascular system is most active at that time. This is when you go to South America, they take a siesta during that time. Okay? Because the heart requires energy and blood. But when you consume food at that time, guess what happens? You're taking away the energy and blood from the heart, because it has to go down to the stomach to induce peristalsis, which is the churning of the muscle to break down the food. So this is why you get tired, when you consume a lunch. But again, in America, they're used to going out, having lunch, eating at that time, when they should be, if anything, just having a light juice or something, because your heart requires blood and energy. Okay. So, but again, 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning, you're not supposed to have any food anyway, because
you mean 11 at night. You mean, so when we get off the air in 22 minutes, can I have some? Can I keep drinking this, right?
Oh yeah. Because it's not food is not going, but you're in between 11 and 1 a.m. your gallbladder, okay. Your gallbladder starts its metabolic process. It starts to secrete bile. Between 1 and 3, that's when your liver detoxifies.
Well, that's why the sleep is important, because they say it's a regenerative, reparative sort of state. So if you stay up all late and wrong like I do, I'm missing out on some restorative,
restorative activities. At 3 o'clock, if you're not in bed by 3, you're going to have a very strong burden on the pulmonary system, because the lungs kick in at 3 o'clock. Okay, so you should be asleep at that time. So our bodies works. There's a very unique function that goes around the clock 24/7. And again, this is why you cannot compare. Unfortunately, you cannot compare Western medicine to Ayurveda, which is about 5,000 years old and going all the way back to ancient Kemet, Imhotep, or traditional Chinese medicine, 35. You cannot compare. No matter what technology you use, you're still trying to catch up to ancient wisdom. Okay. And so you're in the West, you're dealing with a mechanical methodology. You're not dealing with a holistic phenomenon. So this is why they keep making errors over here, because they're taking that mechanical approach instead of taking a holistic approach. That's why I said in the video, you can't just look at your kidney. You know, if you have kidney problems, you got heart problems. You got heart problems, you got kidney problems. If you got stomach problems, you got spleen problems. You know, so the body's, it's like I was at a lecture a long time ago, and the professor said, "Well, what's the most important part of the car?" And everybody said the engine. He said, "Okay, well, let's take an engine and put it out in the parking lot. See you drive the engine home." You know, so it's a combination of the transmission, the braking system, still all this stuff. If one breaks down, the car stops. The same thing with the body. You have to treat the body as a whole, not just treat the specific organ, but treat the entire system.
Can you repeat the tea that cuts mucus?
The tea, there's urgent tongue.
Urgent tongue.
ER. First word, second word CHAN, third word TANG. And most of the time, of course, you won't find that even in the Asian stores a lot. It'll be something they will have to call. But urgent tongue is very, very good. Otherwise, ginger. You can try the ginger. Maybe sometime I'll chop up pieces of garlic and put it in the ginger. Okay. And, and cayenne pepper, things like that. So, any hot tea, and you can be creative. You can put, you can have tea and broth, and you can cut up onions in the broth. And that's going to also cause the phlegm to dissipate. And because people will ask me, so why you never get allergies and you don't have phlegm? Because I don't consume phlegm-forming foods. And I drink hot tea, I eat onions and things like that cut the phlegm. Okay. And again, the proper food combining, again, those for the people that consume animal protein, cheese and meat don't go together. Bread and meat don't go together.
Wow.
It's a poor combination.
And I've seen it.
Potatoes don't go together.
Yeah, I've seen a picture and it shows all this stuff on a picture. You can Google proper food combining, and there are charts and they show what doesn't go with what, on those charts, so but what do you mean so no cheese on the sandwich, no bread on the sandwich, so you're not supposed to eat sandwiches then.
Right, so you have a lettuce wrap.
Well, no, I was going to say you can put, what can you put on bread? Like anything?
I mean, peanut butter and jelly.
Somebody said peanut butter wasn't good. I'm not going to name names. All right, whatever. But
I'm just using that if because most people like peanut butter. But yeah, there's almond butter, which is expensive, more expensive. You got sunflower butter. Like I said, nobody's perfect. And eating a peanut butter sandwich is not going to cause you to have respiratory damage or heart attack, so because that's one of my favorite snacks.
What's that?
Yeah, either the almond butter or the peanut butter, organic peanut butter.
Organic, look, yeah, because we kind of have. Somebody was asking, who was it? Sean says, so O positive has to have some meat. And get this book. It's got a whole section, and then
it's not.
They got little books on the blood type though too, because I've got one.
It's not that, because myself, even though I eat, to be honest, I eat animal protein maybe once a week. I'll go 2 weeks without eating any type of animal protein. I may have salmon a couple days a week. That's pretty much it.
Question too about seafood, about I forgot to ask it.
You still need to be mindful of the type of seafood you want. If you're going to consume seafood, it needs to come from the deepest part of the ocean because of the mercury.
How does one determine how deep the ocean was that the fish came from? I'm into, was it wild caught or farm raised? Now I'm going to ask it, and how deep Did you,
there are charts. It'll tell you. You Google the charts. It'll tell you which fish, which fish thrive in the deep part of the water. Again, because the thing about tuna, for example, you got to be careful about the mercury. The shellfish, for those who indulge in a lot of seafood, like crab or shrimp, you actually will proliferate damage to the pancreas. Okay.
Oh, eat like crabs and shrimp.
Yeah, the people that eat a lot of crab and shrimp actually can put the risk, increase the risk of pancreatic inflammation up to cancer, pancreatic cancer.
Wow. And
all this is based on science. I mean, all this is based on research and science and statistics. So yeah.
Somebody mentioned about the, phasing out the seed bearing fruit and learning to grow our own. But you mentioned to me when we spoke that there's a site that sells like heirloom seeds or some kind of seeds that are.
Yeah, if people, and I do advocate again, not only getting into growing your own produce, but teaching your offspring, your nieces, your nephews. It's right here. It's called Seed Savers Exchange.
Okay.
And because I highly suggest that we encourage the young people to get into agriculture, because it's going to get to a point where we may have to get into bartering.
Is it seeds or with an S or just seed?
It's Seed Saver. Seed Saver.
Saver.
Seed Saver Exchange. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And get into sprouting and things like that. Get a sprouting kit. Because I mean, you can survive off of sprouts. And it may come to a point where you have to keep your diet very simplistic but nutrient dense. And there was a story I was reading that was written back in 1898, last night, on the Moors of Spain. And they were so fierce. The writer said that they would cross the desert and travel for miles, and and could survive off of a few dates a day and still continue to thrive.
Really?
Yeah. I'll send you that book. Is from 1898.
Okay. Well, let me see if there's why does go. Do you recommend the use of spirulina?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, when I was first introduced to spirulina is when I did the juice feasting, when I dropped the 37 pounds, because it's not the body that requires calories, it's the brain. Mm-hmm. So when you're going through that ketosis, you start, it's the brain that's calling out, hey, I need more nutrients. So you fortify the brain with spirulina. For those who can do bee pollen, some bee pollen spirulina is a great combination. Chewing on some ginseng, because they are nutrient dense and they contain amino acids as well. They're superfoods. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Matter of fact, they done studies with people in spirulina that survived on spirulina just, I think it was like 3 or 4 months alone, just spirulina and water.
Excuse me, something just blew in. What was that? Okay, sorry, y'all. It's like something just blew in my eye. Now I can't see.
Yeah, spirulina is great.
Sam Banjo, L Banjo, I'm gonna get you. No, she know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna get her. So, the question is, what's the title of the book that you mentioned from 1898?
It is actually called the Children's Book on Moorish History, or something like that. The children's book. It was a book written for children.
On Moorish history, okay.
Mm-hmm. On Moorish history, it's phenomenal. I'll send that to you because you can't. It's hard to acquire. You have to go through a certain source to acquire those books that were written in the 1800s. And I like those books because those books have much more integrity than a lot of the stuff that we see nowadays.
Okay. All right.
But they also definitely want them to get.
That's right. So I put down there that they can get that. Am I correct? Can they get that at Dr. Botanica.com, or do they need to go to Amazon, or where is it?
No, we're not doing Amazon where they can call directly and do PayPal. As you can see, it's got really good illustrations in here. Like Aretha Franklin, Minnie Riperton. I dedicated that book to all the great women like Nina Simone, Coretta Scott King, all the women that died of cancer and just could not be helped when they could have been helped, but they chose the more mechanical methodology. And sometimes, and as I told you about my first successful case study with the gentleman that had that was given 6 months to a year, and he started my protocol 2 weeks before his scheduled chemotherapy, and I call it adjuvant nutritional therapy, and they called him a miracle patient. Within 14 months, the stage 4 lung cancer, non-small lung cancer to be exact, with brain metastasis, there was no sign 14 months later. He was declared cured 6 years later. I did the same thing with a sister who had breast and lung cancer. Now, I don't claim to cure anything. It's the body that heals itself. I don't cure anything. What I do is introduce the people to the modality as a synergy with the hopes that the body will start to rebalance itself and rebuild at a cellular level. Because prevention is the only cure.
Well, that's and so if a person would like to consult with you, do they start by emailing you, calling the office, or do they go to the website? I'm flashing up your different ones.
All of the above, because I check. I'm on call 24/7 because as I told you, I have clients from California to New York. Is because I'm one of the few practitioners around that has been trained in these various modalities like orthomolecular medicine, metabolic therapy, which I actually had the privilege to train under the Gerson therapy in Tijuana, Mexico.
You have a PhD in, what's your PhD in?
Nutritional science.
Okay. All right. So, oops, did we lock you? We froze you? Oops. I don't know, y'all. All right. I don't know what happened. We're towards the end, though. He kind of locked up here, y'all. But I just want to say that if I can't get him to get back unlocked, which we're at the end, I was going to put this little announcement up. I just put it in the chat. And tomorrow, let me put this up, banners. Tomorrow, yeah. If you guys aren't like truly, truly busy, and put this up, I'm going to be, okay. Oh, sorry. Anyway, tomorrow, I will be the guest. Is he coming back? There you go. Okay, come on back in.
Somebody didn't like what I said.
I don't know what happened. But anyway, while you were away, I was getting ready to tell them that tomorrow I'm going to be the guest on Alchemy Hour at 9:15 Eastern. The YouTube, this is the YouTube channel. I believe it's going to be on Facebook, on YouTube. If anybody is familiar with Brother Dwayne Hendricks, who wrote Red Pill Alchemy and the other book, which I can't tell, he's one of the hosts of this particular channel. And tomorrow I will be their guest. So if you tune in, you can check me out and support me over there. They don't have as many of y'all over there as we have over here. So come on over there and support. That's tomorrow. But listen, so Dr. Botanica, I want to thank you for taking this time. And you can tell you're a ball player because you like to wear a cap.
Baseball. I love. I used to be a great baseball player, if I say so myself.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm excited. I know that I'm looking. I've got some things that I'm supposed to pick up, and I was going to call you about it because I will talk to you after this, because it was one or two things that I think I have, but I was going to ask you if the brand mattered as much as the product per se.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The brand is as I told you, I have a 14,000 product dispensary. So one of the things that practitioners miss out on that they don't have is product knowledge. One of the things I learned in school, you have to have good product knowledge. I used to actually go and visit the facilities and see where they get the raw material and how it's processed. Because you always put it become an advocate of good manufacturing practices. It's
Right.
like you have to be real mindful about buying just something on the infomercial because they say it's good. Or where's the efficacy? You have to look for the efficacy and look for the track record. So brands are very important to me and the track record behind the brand.
Well, you have a awesome site, and what I love about everything that was sent, you actually literally gave me. Not only does it tell me what I need, but it also tells me what each thing, why I need it, and how I need to take it, which you had to add that in. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So I was amazed at that. So you all that are listening, that are not confused like El Banjo, and that you got something out of this presentation, please make sure that you check out Dr. Botanica. And you also know that the brother is a Moor, he's in his proper person,
Flag.
That's right.
Representing.
So yeah, let us support. And if there's anything that you have questions about, you can call the office. I'm sure you can email him. They put the email up again. Because we have different people on, and so different people say different things. So everybody doesn't necessarily 100% agree with everybody else necessarily, but doesn't mean either of the people are wrong. So if anybody has any questions with regard to what you heard, or if you need clarification, or if you would like to have a consultation, then you need to reach out via email, phone number, or go to the website. And also make sure you get. I want to pull up the other. Oops. Let me take down the other thing.
That'll be coming out soon.
I remember what I'm doing. Okay, so here's another. That was the book. Is that the book that you're reprinting? Medicines.
Yeah, that was the one endorsed by Dick Gregory, the first one in 2005. This one here is a much easier to read book. It's a shorter book, but it's going to get right to the point, and and help people to avoid the medical sins that people are subjugated by right now.
And then this is coming out, the standard dietary sins.
And that's going to be actually a consumer guide of the things we talked about. It's going to give them every detail on how to select a good product, all the products they need to avoid, and the adverse effects of the other toxic products that are out there. So it's going to be a small pocketbook, rather you can just take with you and learn. And I advocate these books be for the offspring. We want to create a healthier generation of people.
Mm-hmm. Right. So so they can get the books. Right now though, Stealing a Woman's Treasure is available. The other 3 should be out this spring.
In the next couple of weeks, actually the next by the end of the month. We're expediting the editing process right now.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. So in about 30 days.
All right. Let me just see if there are any other questions before we go off the air. Thanks, Facebook. Play a song on the piano, please. Maybe they're talking to somebody else. Play a song on the piano. You talk about the back of my the piano back there. Is there a piano back there? I don't know. I don't play. Let me see. Well, they're in there helping each other out. Yeah. So you guys, if you are not busy tomorrow at 9:15, check me out. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about, but you know me, I'll think of something. Depends on what they ask me. I'm just honored to be on there because last week they had some young people on there, so now they're gonna balance it up with an elder.
No, you're still a young woman. You're still a young woman. You're not an elder. You are a young woman.
Okay. All right. All right. So maybe by the time I get to be 100, then I'll be an elder. But
Yeah, yeah, you be all right. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah. Yeah.
okay. All right. I'm an elder in some circles. In their circle, I'm an elder. So I'm looking forward to
You're just wiser.
there you go. There you go. So that's tomorrow. But I want to thank you. And I will I'm looking forward to the tea and getting the other stuff I got to get out of the from the Welevate. And hopefully those of who are listening will have learned something. You've given us a lot of information. And I know it was a lot more that you could have told us, but and I'm sorry that I botched the bio at the beginning, but
Oh,
I
okay.
was looking for the version that I actually had, edited, and I was like, oh, it's not it. As I started reading it, I was like, this isn't it. So I started saying some things, but love you too, Sister Fariel. But listen, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the information, and I know that we learned something today, and that you've gained some new followers that didn't know about you before. And you said you've been around for a while and you have studied with some of the greats, and or given advice and some counseling as far as their health to some of the greats. So I want to thank you again
I
for
love you, and I love your show, and I hope to be back, and I hope that we can disseminate this message to the world. All the great practitioners and philosophers. So
I have another question for you because you've gone to school. Are you because a lot what we need more now in our community is we need more people that are knowledgeable. So have you considered doing even if it's online holistic courses in holistic naturopathy or anything like that? Is that something you offer? Because I know there are folks that would love to know more, and you could just rattle those things off like blah.
yeah.
So is that available?
Yes, matter of fact, my mentor and I were working on a curriculum where people can get like a fundamental certification, or just fundamental knowledge on everything from nutritional science to the many modalities that have been around since beginning of going all the way back to Imhotep. So I was just very fortunate to be able to connect with a lot of pioneers. Matter of fact, sent Dr. Samuel Epstein, who was phenomenal at the University of Chicago before he passed, was able to connect with him. Again, Charlotte Gerson, for those who know the background of Max Gerson, even Patricia Bragg, who was the daughter of Paul Bragg.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is she still
As far as I know, yeah, Charlotte Gerson just passed, but I was a member of the Cancer Control Society for years, so I just had a privilege. Matter of fact, Dr. Lynn Horowitz, who wrote the book Emerging Viruses. So I
Oh,
had
I
a
got that here about like Ebola and stuff. I got that
yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
got
mean,
so many books.
yeah, I've had the privilege to meet so many and actually correspond and study and pit their brain, many pioneers, and that's what sets my practice, because I had taken all those principles and applied it to my system.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we look when once that's available, that will be on your website, I'm sure.
Yes.
And any of you out there that are looking to increase your knowledge regarding holistic and wellness, you might want to make sure you stay. There is a place that you can actually sign up for updates on the website, I believe, on your website.
Yes.
So I would visit the website and put my information in there if I were you, if you want to know more, and if you want to be on that mailing list with once that course is offered, you'd get that right.
And Dr. G, one last thing: when people buy the book, for example, they get a free consultation. The women, particularly the women, they get a free 30-minute consultation. That's what I'm doing until the spring.
That's awesome. So they can talk about only if they have any particular issues or concerns with regard to their own health. That's good. You can't beat that. You can't
Yeah,
beat that.
yeah. And I really
All
want
right.
to disseminate the information. They need that.
We appreciate you. One last, I'm just going to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Well, we're getting ready to rock out. We didn't, what normally we all love the theme music, Dr. G. And so we're gonna rock out with Dr. G. And I'm going to leave this with finding my next guest and thanking you profusely for giving of your time.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. This is so divine. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All
Until
right.
next time.
All right.
All right.
Peace. Peace.
Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.
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 Dr. G. Really? Who's she?
Yeah, that's me.